We're in the TechCrunch studio today with Linden Tibbets, founder of IFT, which has also been known to be If This Then That, or IFTTT, but is officially IFT. So welcome to the studio, Linden.
Thanks, awesome. Awesome, thanks for having me.
So I think one of the first things I want to ask you is, why are people so affectionate towards IFT? And like, what is it like to have built a product where you're building this kind of rabid fan base?
I mean, we've really been blown away by it. And I think if I had to kind of put my finger on it, it's because we are really passionate about enabling people to do something they maybe weren't able to do before. There's these huge barriers to entry if you want to be a programmer, right? There's all this school, you've got to get a degree, or at least that's kind of what culturally we've built people up to think. I think by making something that's really, really simple and enabling people to behave in a way that they're only kind of able to observe before, it gets people thinking, wow, I've got all this power, I have this control over something that kind of controlled me up until now. And so I think that might have something to do with it. And
so your product, IFT, is allowing that kind of role reversal to take place.
Yeah.
And you think is fueling all the fandom.
Yes. I think it's really about giving people kind of the simple tools to control the flow of information around them, the things that they create or the information they create, and the information that's important to them. And so that's kind of what our focus has been up until now. And I think the byproduct of that is that when we're successful doing that, people get really, really stoked that they're able to kind of take back this control.
Now, so when did you originally get the idea for this? I mean, it sounds like you had the beta back in December 2010, right? Mm-hmm. We're slowly rolling this out. Like, how did the idea get cooked up in your head, and how did you start building it? What motivated you to do it?
Yeah, so I worked about 3 years at a design firm called IDEO, and I was really lucky to get in there. I had an amazing time and did a lot of kind of watching and listening and watching all the designers basically go about their daily jobs. And one of the things I got really excited about was part of their process was observing people in the wild, people using products, interacting with services. And one of the things they like to look for was people kind of making these small little adjustments or adaptations based on the fact that they had built up this huge prior knowledge of the useful properties of either the services or kind of the physical products.
Could you give like an everyday example of that?
Sure. So for instance, say here on the desk, we had the windows open for whatever reason, and we had papers across the desk, and things started blowing around. And I would say, okay, I take something like my phone and put it on top of those papers to keep them from blowing away. Now, it's just because I know that the phone is heavier than the papers. This isn't something like that took a rocket scientist to figure out. It's something that I knew when I was, probably a year old or even younger. But it's the fact that I knew that about my phone being heavier than the papers, and that was kind of one of the interesting properties about the phone. Now, of course, the phone can do like 100 million other things now, but it is still heavier than paper, and so it's a way to solve that problem. And so to kind of step back, about 1,000 steps or 1,000 feet, is that people know all these little things about millions and millions of physical products, and they're starting to know some of those useful properties of these more abstract digital tools, and especially as we've made these digital tools kind of much more focused. So think of things like Dropbox and Twitter and Instapaper and Instagram. They're all really focused in kind of the functionality and their usefulness, and that people are immediately able to kind of discern those properties. And then kind of the next step from there is once they understand some of those properties, they're like, okay, how do I use these properties in this broader context? How do I go from knowing that this is heavier than paper to solving these really simple problems in my environment?
And so obviously the IFT service now is offering people to link up, a whole host of permutations of services. What are some of the most interesting requests you've got for services, and then, some of the hacks that you're planning for in the future?
Sure. So I think it's been really cool to see kind of on Twitter and when we solicit feedback, people send us emails all the time, to see how quickly people are kind of jumping 3 years ahead, 4 years ahead, 5 years ahead, you know, like hook up my dog collar, hook up, you know, I want to lock my front door, open my garage door, and all that stuff is, yes, we can't wait to do it. You know, like I think there's very few cases where we're like, oh, you know what, I don't think we're ever going to be able to do that. You know, like we get to be in this lucky position to say like, yes, if you can be patient enough for either us to build it or open up a platform for someone else to build it. And so I think that's what's been really fun about it, is that people are kind of able to take this really kind of straightforward, simple concept and then immediately fill it with all the things that would kind of matter to them. And we had somebody had a really neat idea we were talking with yesterday. They said, okay, I would love to, at sunset, turn on the lights. At sunrise, you know, make sure the lights are off in certain rooms in the house. And we were like, oh, wow, well, the lights, that could be a little tricky. We'll have to work on that. The sunrise and sunset, that's easy. That data's out there for everyone. We should just add that in. So it's really neat to kind of stumble across those things.
Sure.
And so that's a lot of what we've been doing, is kind of watching how people use it.
Sure.
And one of the ways, and one of the things that's easy to watch is like RSS feeds, right?
So I know that this is early days, but kind of what you were just saying earlier. So it could be something even in the future, right? Like you guys are just coming out of the gate, but it could be something where IFT is matching up with sensors or other electronics in your home or your car and other things, and you guys are just providing the stitching.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Just the glue, and a way to get from kind of bridge this gap between this digital world, we call it the internet now, and this physical world. And we kind of see those as becoming one and the same. And so we kind of want to be there in both spots. And we're starting in this very abstract digital place.
So one question I had specifically about the site and how it looks and feels is like there's a lot of language around cooking, right? You have ingredients, you have recipes. People are sharing, you know, recipes online, right? How did you come up with that?
Well, you know, I'll maybe preface it with saying we're not really sure that's the right language yet. You know, I think we're constantly always evolving that and thinking about what that right language is, because we kind of have a specific purpose in mind, and that purpose is to build something that anyone can use, not just kind of tinkerers and people here in the valley.
Sure.
You know, like we're constantly looking for ways to provide kind of a structure and a language that lots and lots of people can understand. And so one of those ways is to use something that people are really familiar with, recipes and cooking and ingredients. It sounds kind of a heck of a lot better than functions and variables and while statements and things like that. And so that was kind of the first early play on what some of that language could be, that essentially kind of translated into something that a programmer would understand.
And is that something you spend a lot of time creating at the beginning?
Yeah. I think it's something we kind of had lots of wild brainstorms. You know, hundreds and hundreds of Post-its, picking the good ones, throwing out the bad, and it's something we want to kind of continue to rethink and kind of nothing set in stone. You know, I think we always want to be in a position where we could say, you know what, I was in the shower last night, and it's not recipes, it's groups or sets or who knows what it could be.
Right.
And I think that being willing to kind of throw things out and replace it with something that's much stronger is something we're trying to build into the team and the culture and how we do
So
things.
final question, just focusing on 2012. Obviously, you just guys announced funding. Congratulations on that. What are the plans and goals for 2012? What can we expect as, you know, users of IFT?
So right now, we're kind of our first focus is building a team, and we've got an office now. We're not in the living room anymore, which is pretty exciting. And so I think from there, what we really want to focus on are finding channels that help tell a unique story, that help enable people to behave in different ways. And one of those is kind of bridging this gap to the physical world, and also thinking about even some of the quantified self stuff. We start looking at things like Fitbit and things like that. I think are really interesting stories to tell.
Great. Well, we'll be looking, and congratulations, and thanks for coming in.
Awesome. Thank you.